everybody. Welcome to my, as I said in the introduction, my attempt at this video channel thing. My name is Stephen Andrew Malcolm. I am currently working at a university in Johannesburg in teacher education, specifically science education. I have been a science teacher for about 20 years. I started teaching in 1994. I took a break and I worked in adult education, specifically on a science program that was an access program for students who had been excluded by the system. The course introduced outcomes-based education to South Africa, and of course it was a distance program. I'm also involved in a program at a university in Pretoria, which is an access program for students, school students in Mamelodi, with the aim of developing their skills and the, I suppose, the becoming acclimatized to the type of learning they will be exposed to when they do their undergraduate degrees. So the program is there to help them improve their performance in school and prepare them for university. As I said, I've been a teacher for many, many years, about 20 years. I've always wanted to be a teacher. Even before I went to school, I would subject my younger sister and my 3 cousins to sitting in front of a blackboard that my father painted for me and teaching them. So teaching for me is a passion. It was not an easy road to get into teaching. Okay, so I thought I'd provide you with a brief overview of my history in schooling. So I'll try and not make this too long, but I started school in 1976, and as you can see, I consider this quite a highlight of my schooling career. I was very excited to start school. One of the things I remember so vividly is another little boy crying because he didn't want to start school, and I was just, why? I was just so excited to start my schooling career. 1983 is when I started high school. Of course, it was an all-boys school, and I got teased relentlessly, but I worked hard, I kept my head down, and then in 1987, when I did matric, I actually did maths and science and biology and accounting as my higher grade subjects, and we had a teacher who would spend most of his time playing the horses, and so in my class, one person passed higher grade and 2 of us got a standard grade pass. It was also the year that I was turned down by the Transvaal Education Department and told I was unsuitable to be a teacher. And I don't know, I think I was naive. I didn't apply to Wits University or anywhere else. I thought I was going to get into the Johannesburg College of Education. So what I did with that failure is I went back to school and I repeated 5 of my subjects. I got a distinction for both accounting and biology. And based on those results, I was given a bursary to start at Wits University in 1989. I was the first person in my family to actually go to a higher education institution. Of course, school does not prepare you for varsity. I failed physics in my first year, so I did math instead. In my last year, I took chemistry too, but I dropped it. I just lost all motivation for learning. I tried physics again, and I failed it even worse. I started teaching in 1994 because I finished my degree in 1992, graduated in 1993, and I was doing a higher diploma in education. I got called in mid-year to be told that because I didn't have physics in my degree structure, I wouldn't graduate until I'd completed physics. Anyway, I started teaching in 1994, first at a high school for someone who was on maternity leave, and then I moved to primary school. I trained to be a high school teacher, not a primary school teacher. But those 2 years were actually extremely good for my teaching because I realized that if I wanted to make the science accessible to students, I had to make sure that the learning was hands-on. Of course, at the time, most people were not into this kind of hands-on education, learner participation, and so I did not have an easy time with heads of department. I moved to a private Christian school in 1996, And as you can see, that's one of my low points, because that coincided with me coming out of the closet and, of course, working in a Christian school. I was fired because of my sexual orientation. I started working about 6 months later at a private school. First, I locumed at a high school in Edenvale, and then I got a job at this private school, an all-girls school. I really loved teaching at the school. Unfortunately, they went insolvent, and I then started working for the Educator program, which was part of the Sacred Trust's access program for students who had been excluded from the system. So I started working in 1998. I went back into teaching in 2003. The curriculum had just changed to curriculum 2005 for grade 8 and 9s. So I spent a lot of time developing materials. Of course, coming back to school and teaching only grade 8 and 9s was not easy. But I loved being back in teaching. I then moved to Sandringham High School, where in 2010 I started my BSc Honours in Science Education, and I graduated that in 2012 with distinction, and I'd also started my Masters in Science Education. I completed my Masters, but I elected to rather upgrade for my PhD, and in 2015 I started full-time on my PhD. I completed it early in 2018, and I graduated. I then worked part-time at the University of the Witwatersrand, and then I was offered a position in the US as a research associate, a postdoc position, which I took quite eagerly because of the experience of working in the US. Unfortunately, that was not as pleasant as I'd hoped it would be, but I did learn a lot of things from that in terms of research management, data, how one needs to deal with issues with principal investigators and so on. The contract was not renewed after a year, so we came back to South Africa. So I was unemployed for a while, and then I got the job for the Access program at the University in Pretoria. And in March 2021, which I consider my dream job, I finally got a full-time position at the university, which has been part of my education since 1989. So yeah, that's a brief history. As you can see, there have been some highlights and there have been some lowlights, but I think that happens with all of us in life. I think that is my aim for actually deciding that, I think almost reluctantly, that I'm prepared to do this video channel thing. So I hope that whether you are a student in school, possibly a student teacher, an emerging researcher like I am, that you will find the videos that I hopefully can produce successfully useful in the teaching and learning of science. So welcome and enjoy.